Hi, and welcome to another episode of my Inspiration in Action podcast. The goal of this podcast is to allow you to be inspired by and learn from other creatives, their process, where they get their ideas from, and their views of the world. In today's episode, I'm talking to Karen Cantuq, an incredibly inspirational digital artist from Mexico. Karen now has an Instagram community of over 90,000 people, has partnered with brands like Starbucks and Coca-Cola, but what's more important is that she has figured out how not to be a starving artist and how to pay for her traveling all over the world. But this is not how it started though. Karen's story started with deep personal trauma and depression, which art helped her to overcome. Maybe you can relate to this. But please hear her amazingly inspirational story from herself, and I hope you enjoy the interview.
So please tell us the backstory, how you started and how did you reach this where you are now?
I started about maybe 4 years ago. I had this, I was very sick for almost 2 years. And I was actually in med school. So the doctors were like, you need to take a break for med school because we need to figure out what's wrong with you. And so I did. But my dad, he knows me so well. And he was like, you need to go to have any kind of classes or just distract yourself and not being at home, because actually being at home, and I don't know if you know this, but you start like thinking and it's just you and your mind and you have like so many unpleasant thoughts, and I was actually like hurting myself more for my thoughts than actually my sickness, you know? So I went to architecture school, which I have my degree now, by the way. But in the meantime, I was so depressed because I finally thought for a moment when I was in med school that I found what I was. I mean, I don't know what I wanted to do. So I mean, I don't know if you watch Friends. I'm such a big fan of Friends.
Well, yeah, I know.
Yeah. Well, there's this episode like where Rachel, she's crying and she's just like, I just thought I had my whole life figured out. Like I was gonna marry at 24 and graduate by 25 and whatever. So that was happening to me. So I was very depressed and I didn't know what to do. I always liked art and design, but I never thought that was my calling, So then one day, my dad, he bought me a camera just to find out I was a terrible photographer. And then I discovered Photoshop. So I had the idea in my mind, but I didn't know how to capture it with the camera. So I just started manipulating the photos, I started with a photo of Lily, and I just added some butterflies and stuff like that. So she was my muse. So yeah, and then it became like therapy for me, editing every single day, one photo, and it just distracted myself and my mind and took away my depression, and just suddenly everything felt like this was my path, it was my way. And that's how it started.
Yeah, now I totally understand why you had I wrap my feelings in works of art for a long time.
Yeah.
Bio. Yeah.
Exactly. I needed like a way to express what I was feeling without hurting myself. So that was Photoshop,
Yeah. Yeah, it's a great story, and I feel that so many people, they don't realize that your art, it doesn't have to be like good at all at the very beginning if it helps you to deal with your emotions.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you can be terrible at it, but eventually if you start practicing like every day and you just start doing it, that becomes a part of your life, and you start to become better at it,
Yeah.
like any photographer or any artist or anyone.
Yeah. And tell us about We're All Made of Stories initiative, because I've watched the videos and they're so beautiful, so vulnerable and sincere, and like they're so touching. Tell everyone about the whole thing, how it started and why you're doing this.
Well, that started. I actually read this quote of Eduardo Galeano, and it says something like this in English, like scientists say we are made of atoms, but I believe we are made of stories. So when I read that, I was just like, wow. I mean, that's so true. And I was having a very rough time at the time. Dealing with humans is very exhausting. Like the friendship stuff and love stuff and whatever. So I think it was in the summer of 2017 when I made like my first solo trip. It wasn't like a big solo trip because I was actually on a trip with my friend. She was getting married, and we went to see the venue. And then she had to return home, and I was alone with her boyfriend and his family. And I was just like, this is awkward. I mean, I don't know what I'm gonna do here 3 days. They were like the nicest people ever, but I'm just so awkward when it comes to human interaction. So I called my dad, and I was like, I'm gonna do a trip, and I'm going to a beach. And he was like, what? I mean, are you gonna just go in a bus? And I was like, yeah. It's a 10-hour ride. He never knew it was like all night, right? Because he would kill me. But that was like my first solo trip, and I met these amazing people when I was there, and I was there only for the weekend. So that inspired me to actually do the first We Are Made of Stories video. But this is about us. This is our life, and I think it's very sad when it's so encouraging when people have dreams, but I think it's very sad when they are dreams. So I felt like eventually we need to take all those dreams and make them actually stories. Like if you wanna tell about someone what you've lived, that's a story. Not like, oh, I wanted to do this, which that's great because it gives you inspiration and encouragement. But we just need to take them to a next step. So I decided like, this is gonna be my life. One day I hope I can be actually more stories than just dreams.
Yeah. It sounds so inspirational.
Thank you.
Yes. I really loved the one about first times, and it was like, yes, we need good first times and bad first times as well, and it all forms us as people, and it's so great.
But everyone is a life lesson at the end of the day, and I'm grateful for all the people I've met. But yeah, sometimes they really encourage you just to be like, go out there and just be yourself, and remember that this life is about you. It's not about anyone else but you. And Lily.
Now let's dive into the artistic part of your world. You recently wrote a post, and I asked all of my guests about finding your personal style, and you recently wrote a post about that you're mainly associated with animals, flowers, and astronauts. And tell us how you found that style, and was it easy? Was it hard? And what would you advise to people who are still struggling with finding it? Because so many people writing me, at least, and saying, oh, what do I do? How do I find my style?
Yeah, I think we all struggle, and I still struggle, I think. But like when you start creating, it's so easy to be inspired by other people's, and it's this thin line between being inspiring and actually copying their work, just in a different style. So I was inspired by a lot of artists when I started, obviously, and you can see that in my
For example.
Yeah, but I really discovered like my love for animals, and I think it began when I realized while I was studying, I was at school, and I figured out I can't be out there, in the world just rescuing elephants and doing, good for animals. But I thought, well, I can do art with animals and just make people fall in love with them. You know, it's just like, and of course they are amazing wildlife photographers, but I'm just like, I need to bring something different to the photography with the animals. So what if I put the raccoon in the flowers and stuff, something that you won't see in real life, but if you do, that will be like extremely rare. But that creates like some kind of, I don't know, like an amusement for people. Like it's something different, something cute, and they start, oh, look at this raccoon, or look at the tiger, and this and that. So I started this also with the whole global awareness stuff, you know, and so it just became a thing. And I think that astronauts, for me, have always represent like how sometimes I don't actually feel like I fit in this planet, you know. It's just like sometimes it's so hard. You have like so many, you think very different like other people, and they sometimes think you're crazy because you're so passionate about your work, or why do you put a panda on the moon? Like, are you okay? Are you on drugs? You know, and I'm just like, no, I'm okay. That's just, you start actually doubting yourself. Like, am I crazy, or is just like, this is normal artist stuff, you know? And then you just own it.
I can so much relate to this because I feel like a total weirdo, and all of my friends, they were like, what are you doing? This is like not the real thing.
Yeah, they don't get it. At first, my parents were like, I mean, I think it's something wrong with Karen. I mean, what is she doing? And I show him like, look at my panda on the moon. And he's like, why? Why do you put a panda on the moon? And I'm just like, because he's lost. I don't know. Like, stop it. And eventually now they love, obviously, what I do. And they have like prints all over the house and stuff.
Yeah, but yeah, first people, at least people around you, they don't get it. And it's such a weird feeling when people around you don't get it, but when you put your stuff out there, other people get it. And they're like, oh, this is so cool.
That was a surprise for me. I mean, I didn't start publishing on Instagram for, you know, sharing. I just keep my images there. You know, it was just like, I don't know, an easy way for you to have your things online. And then suddenly people started to like them, and I was like, are they okay? I mean, why? Why are they liking my stuff? And yeah, I mean, I started without knowing people were gonna like this.
Okay. That's also was kind of, I was going to ask you this question. Did you start it, because many people start as Instagrammers and then they discover that they are artists, they kind of find their style, but you started with art and then you started sharing it.
Yeah, right? I mean, obviously I had my Instagram was personal at first, and then I just started mixing personal and art, and then suddenly I was like, oh, this is a thing. Okay, so let's just keep it that way.
Yeah. And also, unlike so many people there on Instagram, and not even on Instagram, out there, you are very much sure about why you create. And do you think it's important for an artist? Because I've met, they're like, yeah, I'm doing this and like awesome, this is totally, but they're not sure why they do it. So
I mean, if you feel it, just do it. There's a reason why you're feeling and why you're creating. Maybe at first, I mean, I didn't understand why I was creating. I found myself doing this every day until suddenly I was like, okay, this is therapy for me. And then it became part of my life, and I understood. But I'm saying this like I understood like a couple of months later after I started doing it, that it was actually helping me, and I started noticing I was more calm. My feelings were like more stable. I wasn't that emotionally. I started to get out again, you know. So that I realized that later. So I think it's very important. Like if you feel like you need to do something, just do it. Sometimes I just have this urge of creating or editing like at 3 or 4 a.m. and I just respect that urge because it's there for a reason, you know?
I know. Sometimes I get busy with stuff which is not photography, and then I feel physically bad about not doing something with Photoshop or with my camera, so I totally relate.
Yeah. It's just like this creative urge you have just to create or do or shoot or, you know.
Yeah. Tell us about your process, how it looks like from the idea, to the final image. Where do you shoot photos? Do you shoot yourself or do you get them somewhere? Tell us.
About the photos I use?
Yeah, like
I mostly use Unsplash or Pixabay, and I do have my Adobe Stock membership. So that's a thing that you start learning also. Like at first, it's very easy to say, "Oh, look at this elephant," and you just grab it from Google, and then you start realizing that that elephant is actually someone else's work, and it's not free of rights, and you're like, "Oh my God, this is not free of rights." So you start learning about the whole creative and artist world. Of course, you make mistakes at first if you have no idea, but then it's just like you learn from them and you start just doing things right and asking for permissions and buying your content and your images and all that.
Yeah.
And then I discovered Unsplash, and that's a real amazing website.
Tell us about it. I've never heard about it.
Unsplash is just like free of rights website of photography. Like photographers upload their photos and they're automatically free of rights. I have uploaded a couple of photos. I'm not a good photographer, but I do contribute to the community. You know, like thanks for the photo. Here's mine. Here's Lily. You know, it's just like and they're very very good photos. Actually, I think almost every artist who create collages or edit through photos that they're not their own, they use Unsplash or Pixabay or Pexels. It also is called Pexels.com.
All right. So when you get an idea, then what do you do? How is your creative process organized?
People always ask that, and sometimes I really don't know. It's just I see an image or I have something in my mind and I'm just hours looking for the right image to create that or to express like the right feeling. It's not like, it can be sometimes that I just look at an image and I immediately put a panda on the moon, you know, just like, oh, here's a panda. Or suddenly I just think about it and I just find the right images for creating the edit. So it varies.
Yeah. And how long do you work on one image?
The longest I've worked in one image is around 8 hours, and that was for the Lego Frida collage I have. But most normally I can work from, I'm not kidding, like 10 minutes to 45 minutes to an hour tops. That's like daily therapy.
Okay. You obviously pay a lot of attention to color in your work, and when do you start thinking it through, and why do you think it's important?
The colors in my photography, in my edits. Yeah. I just think that color express a lot of feelings, and if you, I mean, I realized this later also, but if you go through my Instagram, you can start looking like I'm very bluish because I'm like kind of sad, and then I'm very yellowish because I'm starting to be happy, and I do this like unconsciously, you know. Suddenly, I can go through and see like, oh, in this time, in this month, I was like a little bit sad and a little bit happy. Of course, I pay attention also because as a designer, you pay attention to your grid and how it looks and stuff like that. But it's just how I feel the image should express by the colors of it when I'm editing.
Okay.
And yeah.
Also, one of the most popular questions I get asked is, do you have to be a full-time artist, or you can easily combine it with some other work, job, whatever? How is it organized in your life? Do you have are you a full-time digital artist, or do you have some job? Like,
I do
really?
have a job. Well,
How do you balance?
I'm a freelance designer and I work under contracts, you know. I
Hmm.
don't go like work on site unless I travel for something specific or
Hmm.
whatever. But when I first started, I was actually in school and I
Okay.
was working and I was doing the, art.
Hmm.
So I think it's possible, to do. At the end of the day, it's still creating, it's still doing art, and I love creating, whether it's an image or it's a design or a magazine or an ad tutorial. I love designing. I love creating.
How do you balance between your then work assignments and your personal digital art and the whole work on Instagram, because it's a lot of work, right?
Yeah, kind of. um, I think what's more difficult is to keep up with Instagram. The
Hmm.
fact that you have a community and you need to answer DMs and answer messages, because creating for me an image on my computer, that's not the issue, because I can create it like wherever I am.
Hmm.
But then you have to take the time, because that people are being so nice to being supportive, and
Yeah.
those are the actual people who is like creating your career, because
Yeah.
without them you wouldn't be noticed. So you need to take the time to answer and to like and DMs and whatever.
Hmm.
So I just do whenever I can, maybe in the bathroom, just I mean, you gotta be honest. Like,
Yeah.
whenever you can, you answer. I mean, if you're going to upload a photo, just make sure you have time to answer the comments, maybe in the first hour. Just, be aware that
Hmm.
you need to take care of your community and your art and your work.
Hmm. Um, Last week I spoke to Ronnie Garcia. He's a fine art photographer from Chile,
Okay.
and we talked about how important it is to be also a marketer of your work when you're an artist. Like in today's age, it's
Yeah,
not like you can just create and be beautiful. That's it. You also
exactly.
need to
So
understand.
hard. Sometimes it's so hard and people don't realize that. And then comes the people who hate your work, and it's like, why are you doing this? And then you start sending you the M's like, this is Photoshop. And you're like, really? I mean, I really thought the panda was on the moon. Like, why are you telling me this? So it's just like, I mean, you deal with this kind of stuff every day. And sometimes people don't realize. Or, for example, I love to upload wallpapers.
Hmm.
And I got this DM of this person like, I want this wallpaper. And I was like, oh, sure. I mean, I can do it for you. Just, I mean, later, I'm working or whatever. And then like 2 hours later, like, why haven't you sent me my wallpaper? And I'm like, dude, I have no obligation to send you wallpaper.
Yes.
Like, why are you texting me this? I mean, give me a
Yes.
break. And he just continued texting and texting, and I was like, you know what? I'm not gonna do your wallpaper. Like, please leave me alone. So yeah, people like demand, and there's also the part of, I mean, when you have a really good post, is the next post is gonna be that good? Just start like struggling with that kind of social media
Hmm. Hmm.
stuff. So yeah.
Yeah, I understand that. And you are actually being very generous by giving this free wallpapers. Like
Yeah, I mean, I'm just
you
being
are spread.
thankful.
Yes, you are spreading your art for free, basically, and giving it to people. So, and yeah, it's kind of sad when people don't understand it, because you put lots and lots of hours of your, like when you're creating it. put a lot of effort into it, and then like, hey, come on, give me.
Yeah, you're like, dude, chill. I mean,
Yeah,
I have other stuff to do, and I love when people request, like, can you please upload this wallpaper? And whenever I upload new wallpapers, I obviously take into account like the ones that people like, but it's not like, hey, right now. It's just like I have a life too, and
yeah.
I'm a mom. I mean, that's hard.
Yeah. Another question, which is also connected with the marketing, you also managed to turn your art into a business when you're selling your iPhone. It's not only iPhone, just phone cases,
The eye cases,
right?
yeah.
Can you tell us a bit more about the whole this whole business initiative, and was it hard to start it? Like, was it hard to find places where you would produce the thing, like then control the printing quality? Was it hard for you?
It is. I mean, I'm not gonna lie. At least it has been hard for me because doing it by yourself is just like so much work, and then organizing, and then have your website, and then do all the orders, and it's just the shipping and all that. So
Mm-hmm.
I have to be honest. I stopped promoting the cases and the pins because it was like so much work for me. And even though it was being product, I mean, I was getting money from that because we need to be honest. Like, you just can't
Yeah.
live for the likes and the comments. And I mean,
Yeah,
you
of
need to
course.
pay rent, you need to
Yeah.
eat, clothes, whatever.
Yeah.
So
That's hard
you're
for
doing
me.
something, and then make it something that is profitable to you.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I had to stop a little bit with the cases and the pins because I was having um, different contracts. So that actually brings you more money and more
Mm-hmm.
portfolio and stuff like that. But it's great, and I think it's amazing, and every artist should do it. Like, to find profit in what you do, even though it's
Mm-hmm.
just only selling prints or just being creative, or maybe partner with another, I don't know, business that do t-shirts or prints, or what. I don't print my own prints. I do all the business for Society 6 because I
Mm-hmm.
don't have the time to go and print, and having a stock, that's so hard too. And then people are just like, where's my case, where's my print, where's this? And you can understand because they actually pay for it, but
Yeah.
then see behind the scenes that you have work, and I was in school and this and that, so you can just be full-time in your business. If you do have the time, that's amazing. I mean, I
Yeah.
thought that when I was done with school, I was going to have like a lot of time to do the business
Mm-hmm.
and cases and things, and it turned out I don't. So it's just like sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, and that's part of learning also.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, of course. It's very interesting to hear the story because, well, so many creatives have the same questions, and like, how should I make this, like, turn this beautiful images into
Yeah,
money? And
a lot of digital artists DM me about how do I make my cases. And when I explained to them the whole process, because it was like, I mean, you can do your own cases. I'm not like, I'm not gonna tell you how to do them. They
mm-hmm.
were like, oh, that's a lot of a lot of work, and I'm just like, yep,
Yeah.
it is. It is a lot of work.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. One more question. What's your biggest challenge right now?
Oh, that's a good question.
Well, are doing, let's say.
Oh, what? What? Sorry.
Well, in your art, let's say that.
Into art, I think my biggest challenge is just continue creating something that I haven't already done, and something that will continue is inspiring and surprising people,
Mm-hmm.
and something different. I still think I haven't found, like, oh, this is me.
Oh, okay.
I mean, I did with the flowers and animals thing, but I think like I have something more like underneath me, you know. But I have no idea it will come out or it's just gonna stay there or I don't have it, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just, I hope I can continue creating my whole life and
Mm-hmm.
actually live from what I love doing and my passion. Because that's just, people don't realize it, but it's very, very hard to be freelance and to have contracts and all this because it's like you're just out there in the world without, you know, anything that just keeps you on earth. So,
Mm-hmm.
but it's, I think it's worth it. It's so
Yeah.
much. Actually, I think I'm going to release like an Instagram video or something about all the struggles about being a freelance and digital artist because people DM me a lot. How do I manage to work, and if I'm a graphic designer, or what did I study, or what do I do, and how do
Mm-hmm.
I have job, and how do you get clients? So it's just like, I mean, it's not a secret. I hate when people just keep everything, every knowledge to themselves. You know, I feel like we're in this world just to share. Like you can do
Yes,
it
yes.
too.
Mm-hmm.
So I think I'm gonna release that soon, very soon.
Yeah, yeah. The interesting thing is that what I found personally, when you start sharing and trying to teach someone what you already know, you understand yourself better, and you kind of organize that information in your mind for yourself. So it's also beneficial both ways.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, and even if you teach someone to, for example, use Photoshop, doesn't mean he has, I mean, it's gonna sound like a little bit rough, but it doesn't mean he has like the creativity to create the same thing as you. So
Yeah.
you're just providing the tools and
Mhm.
hoping that people will create with them. So it's
Yeah.
not they're stealing your job or it's only
Mhm.
your secret weapon or whatever.
Yeah. We actually had a question from one of the guys who is
Okay.
present here, and it was also my question. Where do you find your inspiration? Which, like, can you maybe name some people who inspire you, or if it just places? Where is it? Other kinds of art, or is it digital artists as well, or is it photographers, movies, whatever? Tell us.
I find inspiration almost everywhere, but I do like to keep myself like, let's say, digital inspired, or I read a lot of designer
Mm-hmm.
books, or I look at a lot of I mean, I'm an editorial designer right now for a company, so I look a lot through magazines and looking for magazines. You see people, what are they liking, what are the trends.
For example, can you name some magazines for so that people can also see them after that?
Uh, oh, magazines. Well, I look like a lot of magazines online, like Plastic Magazine. Um, Even though just looking at teen magazines like Vogue or stuff like that, you realize what's on trend and what's people talking. And
Mm-hmm.
you can have a trend of colors, or for example, right now, people are loving animal prints. So whenever you upload a photo of a tiger or a cheetah or anything like that, that's on trend. So
Mm-hmm.
that unconsciously gets into your mind and you start like doing
Mm-hmm.
it. For example, if you go into YouTube, there's like, I think the most popular YouTube video is like this cat doing, I don't know what it's doing. But you say, well, cats are a thing. So
Yeah.
create something with art, I mean with cats, and just start engaging with what people are liking right now. Because
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
it's very, very hard to engage people because there's tons of things online. Like
Mm-hmm.
endlessly. So if you have the audience, or if you want to have the audience, just find out what that people or what your target is, so you
Mm-hmm.
can give them what they want to see, and then you can start, growing. So, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And I think it's also important to find this sweet spot when it kind of connects the things that interest you and the things that interest people who your
Yeah.
target audience is. Because, like, you found the animal thing because you're deeply into animals as well yourself, and like
Yeah.
you elephants and
And I mean, there's a lot of people in the world. So even though you feel like you're not into the most popular or trendy or trend, you know, just do whatever you feel, because there's tons of people and someone will like it. So just, you know, feel yourself.
Okay. Can you name a few people who you, I don't know, follow on Instagram, or maybe some other artists that inspire you?
Sure. Ted, I don't know if you know him. Icy, I think. Hey Lisa, she's been a huge inspiration, and I love how she has grown so much, and her editing is so good. She's in details, like that's amazing. Also, Alexandra, she's into this fantasy world and Harry Potter, and that's just, I mean, I love Harry Potter, so I always love to watch and to see her tutorials and how does she, you know, edit photos that she actually takes. So that's just amazing. Also, I mean, this is Mom Goals. It's the life of Act, you know? She loves like photos with her kids, and it's just like they're jumping and flying, and the bear and the dog, they're just like, oh my god, I want to be like that when I grow up.
Okay.
But, yeah, she has like a beautiful family. And also like watching her grow was she grew so fast, you know, because she was doing something unique and something very inspiring, and people actually identified with her, like moms especially, like kids are just jumping in the house and stuff like that. So she had very clear what her audience was, and she just continued with that.
Yeah. It would be great if you could put links in your stories maybe to those accounts for people who don't know. That would be very beneficial. And what is your biggest dream as an artist?
My biggest dream as an artist, I actually had like this crisis like a few months ago, because I went into my dad's room and I was crying so much. And my dad, he's just not very good with feelings. So he was just like, what's going on? And I just couldn't talk, because I had like so much feeling in me, like when you start just crying, like, you know, like this. And he was like, what's happening? And I don't know what I'm doing with my life. What are you talking about? And I'm just like, I really don't know what I'm doing. I don't know where I'm going. And he was like, just, okay, you know, shut up. Tell me what's going on. And I'm just like, that's what's going on. I don't know what's going on. He was like, okay, okay. And he was just like, tell me one thing that you would like to do for the rest of your life. And it was Sunday morning. I haven't had breakfast. And I don't know if you know this, but I love bagels. Like,
yeah, I've noticed.
Bagels. So I was just crying. And I was just like, I just want to eat bagels all over the world. And my dad was just like, what? I mean, that's the one thing you want to do for the rest of your life? And I was like, yeah. He was like, okay, so what do you need to eat bagels all over the world? And I was like, to travel. He was like, okay. And what do you need to travel? And I was like, money. Like, duh. And he was like, okay, and how do you get money? And I was like, working. He's just like, and what would you like to do for the rest of your life to earn money? And I just answered like this, like, I want to create. Like, I want to do art. And he was like, there you go. And I was like, I mean, what it started like a stupid conversation about eating bagels. It actually was like a life-changing one. He was right. I mean, I want to do this. Probably I won't, eat bagels all around the world my whole life. But it's just like, he's right. He's right. Like, just do what you love and do it with passion. And if you have the skills to do it, just continue doing it, and eventually, you will grow and you will have work, and then you can eat bagels all over the world. And I was like, thank you, Dad. And, after that, that was that was actually on January from last year. And that, it was 1 year ago. And this year I think I traveled more than I have ever in my entire life.
Yeah.
So just that was helpful, that, thank you. That worked. I ate bagels in 16 different cities this year, and I was so excited, just check mark every city.
Have you been to Europe yet?
I've only been to London.
Oh, okay.
I went to London last January, actually. So I've only been to London. But yeah, I want to do this Europe trip soon.
That was
I
great.
hope so.
Hope to meet you.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be great. And it's thank you for this story. I think many people who are listening to us right now, they should do this, because I think maybe every person, or at least every artist in his life, comes to this point of crying. Don't knowing what.
Sometimes it's so frustrating, and when people actually don't get all the time or all that you do, because sometimes you feel actually bad, you sell a print and they're like, oh, that's so expensive, and you're like, you have no idea what I've been through to do this print or to do this photo. And regardless of how much your computer costs or how much Adobe costs, each month and all that stuff, it's just my creativity has a price, It's just and people don't value that sometimes. So it's kind of frustrating at first, but then you find people who do, and then they don't, and they do. So you're just this roller coaster ride with your work.
Just one more question. What makes a good work of art?
I think that the artist has done it with passion and not for business. That's my personal thinking. I feel that, or this has happened to me, when people want me to edit something for them, it just doesn't feel the same way as if I just created it because I wanted to, because I felt it. So I think that, works of art that really have a story or a meaning to the artist, that's a good work of art.
Yeah, I totally understand it, and I also would say that it's great when this passion translates to the viewer.
Yeah.
When the viewer can relate. Yeah.
Or when the client just lets you be, if you're taking a photography or if you're just creating or editing, just let me be and let me put my touch and let me, do my thing. Don't try just to manipulate every single thing I do, because at the end it's just gonna end up with something that the client did. And that's also very hard.
Yes,
in design or in art and in photography, it's just people, they just wanna, use you to create what they want. So there's just a different tension with client designer and client photographer.
So many people write us about how you inspire them, and I'm one of them too. And thanks so much for being with us.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I'm so honored.
Yes, and for everyone who hasn't seen Karen's Instagram TV, please go there and check it out. And her iPhone, not iPhone, I just have an iPhone, that's why I always phone cases are so amazing. And also the pins. So please check that out.
This wraps the episode up. Thanks so much for listening. All the names and resources that we mentioned can be found in the show notes to this episode. Just go to dashapears-art.com/podcast. If you like this podcast, please go to your podcasting app and hit like. It helps more people benefit from the content I'm putting out there. Now, until next time, bye.